On Wall Street, the Dow up by 130 points. The Nasdaq rose 252. More at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Day.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Netflix, Oracle, and other technology stocks lifted Wall Street as their profits pile higher and excitement builds around the money-making prospects of artificial intelligence. The S&P 500 rose 0.6% and closed just shy of the record it set in early December. The Dow rose 0.3%, and the Nasdaq Composite climbed 1.3%. The gains came even though the majority of U.S. stocks fell under the weight of another crank higher for Treasury yields in the bond market. Netflix led the way after joining a list of companies to top analysts' expectations for profit in the latest quarter. The Dow up 131 points, closing at 44,156. The Nasdaq gained 252 points to 20,009. The S&P 500 added 37 to 6086. For the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clouds increase. We'll have a cold evening. The low temperature dipping down to 16 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and again, frigid. The high is just 40. A bit warmer for Friday and Saturday. The highs into the mid-40s. While on Sunday, we'll see temperatures cross into the low 50s as a high. We are dry through Monday. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
The Point. The Point.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, see you, Snow. Nice to know you. See you in about 11 months. Oh, that was nice. That was nice for about 10 hours. It's pretty when it's falling, and it's pretty when it's not being run over by cars and trucks and
you are
stepped
such an
on.
Old man.
It makes for a pretty picture in the South. But you know what? It's time for the snow to get out of here.
Such an old man.
And move on and let us get back. 50 degrees this weekend, people. Yes, ma'am and sir. It's going to be nice. So a couple of more days of this winter nonsense, and then we'll get to spring-like temperatures here in the South. Welcome in. It is Sports Talk. We always bring the heat. We bring the sunshine, not the clouds and the snow. Phil Kornblut, Josh Cohen in Columbia. And that's Chris Bergen, you hear. He's on location down in Statesboro, Georgia. No basketball game for you tonight, sir.
Stuck here, Mr. Curmudgeon. Yeah, stuck here. We're playing tomorrow. They postponed the game until 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, so it'll be a Thursday matinee for Coastal and Georgia Southern. Big matchup. Second go-around. We played them last Thursday, too. So these two teams should know each other pretty well. Went to overtime in Conway. So unfortunately, because of the weather here, they got about somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 inches of snow last night. Temperatures barely got out of the 30s, low 30s today. So the fear was that things would refreeze overnight during the game, and so Georgia Southern officials thought it better to err on the side of caution. And on the flip side of this, we were scheduled after the ball game, whether it was tonight or tomorrow, to drive back to Conway, get a fresh set of clothes, and then head to Old Dominion on Friday. But Coastal's university, the administration decided it wasn't safe for the bus to come back to Conway because you'd have to get on some back roads ultimately. So we are going straight from here to Raleigh, North Carolina tomorrow. We'll spend the night there and then drive on the rest of the way up to Norfolk, Virginia. I'm just 2 pairs of underwear short of making this entire trip.
Well, I'm sure you can find a Walmart or a store of fine clothing that can help you out. So what does a team do on a day it was supposed to play and then they find out they're not playing?
Well, most of the morning was spent preparing for the game as normal because Georgia Southern did not make the call until about 1 o'clock today. We'd heard rumors that they were probably going to move it to tomorrow, but the coaching staff decided, you know what, we'll approach this with the team as if we're going to play tonight. So they had their typical film session this morning after breakfast, had what would have been a shoot-around, turned into a little bit longer practice over at Georgia Southern's new facility, and then came back here to the hotel, and they've been lying around the hotel the last couple of hours before dinner, and I'm not sure what else they've got planned this evening. So, but yeah, they treated it as best they could as a normal game day until it wasn't. And then tomorrow we'll get up, I guess probably 8:30. They'll have pregame right at 9, and then drive over and play the game at 1.
Yeah. Of course, here in Columbia, word came out today that the South Carolina LSU women's game scheduled for tomorrow night at the Colonial Life Arena, 8 o'clock, and the ESPN program Game Day was going to be a part of that, but they had to postpone it. Travel issues for LSU, of course, coming out of the Deep South, where they really got hammered unusually in Louisiana and Florida and down that way. And so that game now is going to be played at 5 o'clock on Friday on ESPN, but no game day activity as far as that show coming in. So 5 o'clock on Friday for South Carolina LSU women. Meantime, tonight, South Carolina and Florida. That game is on 7 o'clock at the Colonial Life Arena. South Carolina trying to get that elusive first win in SEC play, while Florida has been one of the better teams in the SEC so far this season, Chris. So the Gamecocks are facing yet another difficult challenge in SEC play, and as the losses build, the pressure builds. They remain without 2 starters, of course, for tonight's game. So I don't know what their answer is going to be tonight. They'll have to have an effort like they did at home against Auburn. That kind of effort with maybe a break here or there might get them a win over Florida.
They're going to have to probably play as well, if not better, quite frankly, Phil, than they did against Auburn, especially on the backboards. Florida is going to present all kind of problems for USC's front line. And with the lack of depth they've got in the backcourt, I don't see a pathway right now until they get fully healthy for them to beat some of the top-flight teams in the SEC. And quite frankly, that's half the league. I mean, the league is so strong, they're not going to get a day off, in the next couple of ball games. So until they get fully healthy, I don't think we know exactly how talented this team can be. We saw it early in the season at spurts, and they still had struggles even earlier in the season. But tonight, I just think it's a really, really bad matchup for them unless Florida misses some shots and they hit some threes. And who are you going to count on to make those outside shots to keep you in the game?
Yeah. Gators come in ranked as high as number 5, 16-2, 3-2. In the SEC, we talked about their lineup the other day. It's a balanced lineup. 4 of their 5 starters. I mean, this is beautiful. This is exactly what you want. 4 of their 5 starters average in double figures, with their leading scorer, Walter Clayton Jr., terrific outside shooter, and he's averaging about 18 points per game. So he leads the way. And then Elijah Martin, another guard, is averaging over 16 a game. 5.5 rebounds a game. It's just a very balanced team with a good inside-outside game. They got the big guy Condon inside, averaging 11 points and 8 rebounds. You can feed the post. You also have another big in there at 6'10", and you got the 3 outside shooters. So, I mean, they got a really good balanced attack on the offensive side. And Gamecock defense has not been – I mean, to hold Auburn to what they did, that was very impressive. That's an Auburn team that averages in the upper 80s. They held them to, 66, I believe. But they only scored – the problem was the Gamecocks only scored 23 in the second half of that game.
Yeah, and the other concern you have too, Phil, with a team like Florida, you talked about their balanced scoring when you looked up and down their lineup, but they also only have 3 players averaging more than 30 minutes a game. They are deep. They can run about 9 or 10 guys out there if necessary. And again, South Carolina is not as deep as USC would normally be because of the injuries. This is going to be a tremendous, tremendous challenge for the Gamecocks tonight on what will probably be a very light crowd already. You were going to probably have a smallish crowd because of the way the season is going. Now you throw in the added weather, and folks may look at it and say, you know what, I can stay home in the house and watch it on television. So they're going to have to bring their own energy, and Florida may be the beneficiary of this because of the weather, and it's not going to be, would not think, a very hostile crowd. And back to the LSU-South Carolina women's game for a moment. I think that actually also helped LSU a little bit with the 5 p.m. tip-off on Friday, Phil. Maybe not quite the boisterous crowd at Colonial Life Arena because some folks are just going to be getting off of work on Friday afternoon and may not be able to get over there. And the one advantage that Carolina has had, and again, I still think the Gamecocks win on Friday, regardless of when you play the game. But I think the one thing they've been able to do here of late in particular is put teams away in the first 10 minutes. I mean, they've been blowing teams out because they've had such an advantage after the first quarter. I think LSU may be able to settle in a little bit quicker because they're not playing in front of 17,000, 18,000 fans screaming down their necks at them. Well, because I'm not sure it's going to be full.
I'll disagree with you on that. I think they'll pack it. I think people will
ultimately it will fill up. Yeah, I'm just saying early. I don't think it will be.
I think they'll pack it. I think that the time's not going to make a difference for that one. I think the Gamecock fans have been looking at this one for since the beginning of the season, of course.
No doubt.
They're gonna get there and pack that thing. The only other thing I would say too, in both cases, the USC women and the men, the students are back, so that'll help some. And so the students did not have school today at South Carolina, and so they probably went out and had a lot of fun. And what better way to continue the fun than going over to the basketball game, taking your cutout paper sled from your cardboard box and slide down the hill.
Cardboard,
slide down the hill to the arena and go to the basketball game. They might have a little bit better crowd than you might expect on a night when it's going to be a low of 16 degrees and you still got snow clearing out.
I hear the first 500 students get a free jersey and free food. That's what I hear for tonight's game.
All right, so they're paying the players and they're paying the students. The payers to play and the students to come and watch. Meantime, in the upstate, Clemson and Syracuse, that game is on as well. That, too, is going to be a 7 o'clock tip. That'll be on the ACC network. The South Carolina-Florida game tonight, that, too, is going to be a 7 o'clock tip, and that is going to be televised on the SEC network. And so Clemson, red hot, looking to pick up their 16th win of the season, their 8th win in SEC play. Tigers are coming off a win at Pittsburgh. They've won 3 straight. They have won 6 of their last 7. They have been playing some good defense, and they've been coming up with key buckets at crucial times, enough offense. They're getting some great play, of course, out of Chase Hunter. They're seeing Ian Shefflin fight through pain and get it done. This team is growing by the game. I see this team, Chris, really coming together as a solid team that goes about 7 or 8 deep, that Brad Brownell can go to his bench with some confidence and bring in guys like Dale Jones off the bench. This team is really Dylan Hunter. Dylan Hunter's playing very well. This team has really come together over the last few weeks, and legitimate contender to win the ACC regular season.
I agree. I really do. I think it's a 4-team race that appears right now with Wake Forest and their win last night against North Carolina at home. I think it's them. Louisville, you can't overlook the job that Pat Kelsey, in my mind, the ACC Coach of the Year already, the job he is doing at Louisville. And then you got, of course, the class of the league right now with Duke, and then right after that, Clemson's in the mix too, only game or so back of the Blue Devils. And here's another game that the Tigers just need to go out and take care of business at home because it's a Syracuse team they should beat. They're better than, and they just need to continue doing what they are doing. And I've been awfully impressed with how well Ian Shefflin has played, considering the injuries he's dealing with. A back injury for a big guy is not a lot of fun, and normally limits the production you can get from that guy, especially as good a rebounder as he's been. If you didn't know that Ian was hurt, I'm not sure you'd realize that he's been playing through pain.
Just his effort. I mean, his effort is never subsides. Syracuse coming off a win over Notre Dame. They've won 3 of their last 4. That loss was to Louisville, and Louisville's beating everybody right now. They lost to Wake Forest. They lost to Florida State recently as well. So they're a rebuilding team, of course, since the departure of Jim Boeheim. Was that a couple years ago that Boeheim retired? How many?
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
This is second year out, right? They're 9-9. They're 3-4. Yeah, 9-9 and 3-4, and so it's not the the Syracuse team of yore for sure, but they still recruit well. They still have some talented players. Eddie Lampkin is their graduate center. He's averaging about 10 points and 10 rebounds a game so far this month. Guard J.J. Starling, sharp-shooting outside shooter and a very good free throw shooter. So Clemson should, you would look at it on paper, you would say Clemson should win this one and should win it relatively easily, but we'll see how the Tigers play this one out and if they can take care of business up at Little John tonight. All right.
You know, it's funny, Phil, you were excuse me, I was flipping channels earlier today, and I ran across a feature. It looked like a 30 for 30 about the Big East, and it was talking about the rivalry between Syracuse and Georgetown, the good old days of the Big East back in the mid-'80s, when Boeheim looked like a really, really young coach, and he was. And then you had John Thompson on the other side, Patrick Ewing, some of those great players on both sides, Pearl Washington, and they referenced some of the great games between those two. I think Syracuse has fallen a long way from those type teams.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were one. It's one of the great programs in college basketball back in those days, and
it really was.
They're in total rebuild mode at this time. So, but still, I don't think you don't take them for granted. If you're Clemson, you don't take any game for granted. You still got to go out and play your great style of basketball. And back at home at Little John, they won 2 road games last week. They've got a lot of momentum, so there's no sense for them to do anything like take their foot off the gas. Yeah, this is Red Autry's second season at Syracuse, and so they were 20-12 last year, 11-9 in the ACC. So not bad last year, but they have struggled. They've had just an up and down season so far at 9-9 and 3-4. All right, coming up on the program, your phone calls are certainly welcome. 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to reach us here on Sports Talk. And you can also shoot us a text message as well. And that phone number is 803-900-4847. Of course, if you happen to lose us at some point tonight, you can always follow us on our YouTube feed and on our Facebook page as well, Sports Talk Media Network for both of those, and our feed off our website and on the Chief Sports app. Be right back.
Happy New Year. 2025 is here, and that means it's time to get your finances back on track. With Founders Federal Credit Union, you can manage your debt like a pro this year. Consolidate any high-interest debt with a personal loan from Founders. Debt consolidation offers several advantages like simplified payments, lower interest rates, fixed interest rates, and extended payment terms. It may even improve your credit score or even help you avoid default. So simplify and possibly reduce your payments by consolidating your debt. At Founders, we have personal loans to fit your needs, whether you need a little or you need a lot. Plus, our loan officers will work with you on your payment terms and help you find a solution that fits your budget. So stop by one of our locations or visit foundersfcu.com/personal loans to apply for a personal loan today. Relax. you're with Founders. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968, or email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's Corbett. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-765-2968, or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
All right, coming up on the program tonight, we got a great lineup for you. 7:05, our final season edition of Chalk Talk with Chuck Reedy and Ellis Johnson. One more look back at the Natty and more of a discussion about college football overall this season, the playoffs, in-state, and where we're going to be heading moving forward. Also coming up, Shane Beamer was in Houston. In fact, he's still in Houston tonight. It's the banquet for the Bear Bryant National Coach of the Year Award, for which he is one of the finalists. And today they had a press conference where all the coaches, I think it's like 8 or 9 of them, gave a few comments and took some questions. So we'll bring you what Shane Beamer had to say coming up in just a little bit. We'll have also coming up tonight at 7:35, Citadel coach Maurice Drayton will be joining us live on the program. Yeah, we'll catch up with him on the season that he has completed and the progress they made, and, of course, looking ahead to the spring and what he hopes to accomplish next year, and recruiting as well. And, of course, a big story overnight or last night is that this is interesting, very interesting, and we'll go into more detail, but South Carolina apparently pulled an offer, and South Carolina decommitted from a commitment. Now, how often does that happen? You know, Rodney Colton, and it wasn't for anything that the young man did that was illegal or academics or anything like that, but he had been committed to South Carolina since April of last year, yet he continued to play the recruiting game. He continued to talk to coaches and take offers and take visits to other schools, and he told Jordan Kay last night, well, Hale McCranahan, the Big Spur, broke the news that South Carolina was no longer keeping him on the committed list and no longer recruiting him. And Jordan Kay of the State reached out to him, and he said, Clayton White called him and said, basically, you don't appear to be very serious about your commitment. You're kind of looking at yourself still as a free agent, so we're taking you off our list and moving on. He's like, according to him, he was like, I got all these other offers and I've stayed committed, but if that's what they want, that's what they want. So, they cut him loose. So that's a player, a very good player in terms of, based on his recruiting and how many big-time schools are going after him, back on the market. In fact, Tennessee's very, very heavily involved. And South Carolina took the road that if you're not going to go ahead and be with us and shut it down, then we're going to let you go and move on to other people. How about that?
Taking a page out of Dabo Sweeney's book, which has worked so well for Clemson, but Phil, we're in a different era now. can you afford to do that? And like you said, I read briefly the 24/7 profile that they have of him, and he seems to be a very, very talented player. I don't know that you can mess around with those type guys and just take that stance. Well, if you're going to continue looking around, even though you say you're committed to us, like Dabo Swinney has said, well, you're not committed if you're still looking around, which I admire, and I like the fact that coaches take that kind of stance. But boy, in an era where players are using agents to leverage against other schools, you got to walk a really fine line now, don't you?
Yeah. That's a very unusual move. We haven't really seen that from South Carolina. They've often taken commitments from players, and those players have been taking other visits. They haven't really shut down. I guess, with the volume of visits that Colton's been taking, like I think he went down to Florida State, and he's been to Tennessee. He's going back to Tennessee this weekend, and maybe over to Georgia and all that kind of stuff. Maybe the communication they were having with him wasn't where they thought it needed to be. Mm-hmm. Maybe the vibes they were getting wasn't what they wanted to feel. And so I guess they felt like might as well just go ahead and cut our losses here and move on and recruit other linebackers.
That's very possible. I look at this and I try and juxtapose this recruitment versus the quarterback out in California that you've been talking about all week that Shane Beamer has visited, and they're really hot and heavy on, even though he's committed to Florida State. Mm-hmm. So you have a situation where you're trying to pull another commitment from another school, but then evidently you drop a commitment to your school because he's taking peeks and looks elsewhere. It's just, I don't know how you square that in your recruiting department.
Yeah, it's on the outside, it's a little inconsistent, it would appear. But, again, we don't know what the relationship was like, where it was going, how the conversations were. So, anyway, that has happened, and that's a pretty significant loss for the Gamecock class. Drops them back to 5 commitments, and depending on how you want to look at Britt, who they also have committed, a defensive end or linebacker, they either have one linebacker in the class or no linebackers in the class if Britt ends up being a defensive end. Our poll question of the week, speaking of coaches of the year, our poll question of the week presented by Larry Lucas Insurance. Call Larry for all your insurance questions and needs at 803-799-1998. Who is the 2024 College Football Coach of the Year in South Carolina? Is it Shane Beamer? Is it Chennis Berry? Is it Jericho Cotchery? Or is it Dabo Swinney? The poll question remains live on our Facebook page, and Sweeney's got 76% of the vote thus far. I'm sorry, Beamer's got 76% of the vote so far. Sweeney's got 14%. Berry's got 9%, and Cotchery has got 1%. You got more time to vote, so make sure you get over there and get your vote in. And
who do you think is National Coach of the Year? Who wins that Paul Bear Bryant Award tonight, do you think?
Well, I mean, you got several coaches there who were in the playoffs. It all depends on how they were to look at, say, Beamer, or they've got like Jeff Monken from Army. He had a great year, but how do you measure those up against the guys that made the playoffs? So it's a tough call. Back in just a moment, we'll hear some comments from Beamer.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clouds increase. We'll have a cold evening. The low temperature dipping down to 16 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and again, frigid. The high is just 40. A bit warmer for Friday and Saturday. The highs into the mid-40s. While on Sunday, we'll see temperatures cross into the low 50s as a high. We are dry through Monday. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Tradition and quality. That's what you get with H&J Cattle Company, where local third-generation farmers ensure you receive the finest beef in South Carolina. Our registered Hereford and Wagyu cattle are raised with sustainable practices, without growth hormones, antibiotics, or animal byproducts. Taste the difference with the highest quality beef guaranteed. Order now at hdjcattle.co or on Instagram and Facebook at hdjcattle.co. Again, hdjcattle.co. Where ethics meets quality.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting the House has passed a bill to require the detainment of illegal immigrants accused of theft and violent crimes. It marks the first legislation that President Trump can sign as Congress, with some bipartisan support, swiftly moved in line with his plan to crack down on illegal immigration. The bill is called the Laken-Riley Act. The story of how Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire in Gaza stretches back over more than a year. The timing and unlikely partners who coalesced to push negotiations across the line help explain why it finally happened. The outgoing and incoming occupants of the White House simultaneously pushed to free dozens of hostages in Gaza and bring an end to a conflict that began with the killing of about 1,200 Israelis in Israel. More details at srnnews.com.
You don't normally call a plumber until you need a plumber. Well, if you need one today or if you need one tomorrow, I want you to remember Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. Listen, I might not know all the tricks to turning a wrench, but I do know how a plumbing company should work and how to treat people. My dad was a plumber, my grandfather was a plumber, and so were 3 of my uncles. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning does it right. They are the epitome of customer service. They're locally owned and operated, and Josh and his team, well, they put customer service as the top priority for Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. I've never known a business owner more intent on making it a great experience for people. And let's face it, when you have a plumbing crisis, well, that could be traumatic. They specialize in service and replacement issues for your home or for your business. They've been to my home and fixed 3 different plumbing issues I had in the house. If you need them, they're there to help. Online at franklinplumbing.sc.com or call Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning 799-2222. That's 799-2222. And tell them Kev sent you from The Point.
Hey y'all, this is Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We'd like to invite you and your family to dine with us. We have a great menu that's sure to please your whole family. We have fresh cooked burgers, big juicy wings, blue plate menu featuring country cooking, oven baked hoagies, fresh crisp salads, authentic Greek food like gyros, souvlaki, and baklava. We also carry 20 different premium cheesecakes and pies. Flight Deck Restaurant also has an arcade with 30 different games like Star Wars, Batman, Skee Ball, Bass Wheel, Pac-Man, Galaga, and so much more. Flight Deck, your favorite family restaurant. Thanks y'all and God bless.
Happy New Year. 2025 is here, and that means it's time to get your finances back on track. With Founders Federal Credit Union, you can manage your debt like a pro this year. Consolidate any high-interest debt with a personal loan from Founders. Debt consolidation offers several advantages like simplified payments, lower interest rates, fixed interest rates, and extended payment terms. It may even improve your credit score or even help you avoid default. So simplify and possibly reduce your payments by consolidating your debt. At Founders, we have personal loans to fit your needs, whether you need a little or you need a lot. Plus, our loan officers will work with you on your payment terms and help you find a solution that fits your budget. So stop by one of our locations or visit foundersfcu.com/personal loans to apply for a personal loan today. Relax. You're with Founders. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
Imagine a cooler home this summer and a warmer one during winter without the sky-high power costs. Redbird Windows and Doors offers you the solution with our state-of-the-art energy-efficient windows and doors. Locally operated, we promise a hassle-free experience with our expert team handling everything from consultation to installation and doing so flawlessly. Upgrade your home's comfort and cut down those energy bills. Visit redbirdwindows.com or call us 727-0561 today. Redbird Windows and Doors. Local experience matters.
Sports talk every weeknight from 6 to 8, feeling just right. Phil, Chris, and Josh, they're in the zone. Across South Carolina, they're well known. Sports talk, bringing the heat. Talking sports, can't be beat. Tune in, don't you pout. It's a show you can't live without.
I know I can't live without it. Cannot live without Sports Talk. Good to have you back with us on this Wednesday night. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Josh Cohen. 888-988-2525 is phone number. A couple of quick notes. Then hear from Shane Beamer. ACC is going to release the 2025 football schedules on Monday from 9 till 11 on the ACC network. So we'll find out what Clemson has ready to go. We know that the Tigers will be playing LSU to open the season at home, but we'll get all the dates and I guess maybe some TV assignments We know Clemson's got LSU August 30th at home, Troy September 6th at home, Furman November 22nd at home, and then South Carolina on the road November 29th. They will also be playing home games with Syracuse, Duke, Florida State, and SMU. And road games, Boston College, Louisville, North Carolina, and Georgia Tech around the ACC. So I'm just looking at their travel situation. So really, Boston College, that's a flight. Louisville can be a drive or a flight depending on how you want to approach it. North Carolina and Georgia Tech, not bad at all. Unlike South Carolina next year, that's going to travel to LSU, is going to travel to Missouri, is going to travel to Texas A&M, and they're going to travel one more. I know they're going to go to Atlanta to play the neutral site game, but there's one other. I thought there was one other long trip for the Gamecocks. I have to look that up. They got several flight-related trips for their fans next season. But the ACC thing will be coming out. Yeah, Ole Miss. ACC thing will be coming out on Monday. By the way, the ACC today announced that they have a new title sponsor for their championship game in Charlotte. And this is also going to be a major sponsor for the ACC. Did I say championship game? I meant for the tournament.
Yes.
ACC basketball tournament. Let's see here. ACC basketball tournament sponsor, which goes into effect this year. T. Rowe Price. Yeah, T. Rowe Price will now be the official sponsor of the ACC. And through 2027, they'll be the exclusive title sponsor of the ACC men's basketball tournament. So I guess they're replacing, I think it was New York Life was the previous sponsor. It will now be the T. Rowe Price ACC men's and women's basketball championships. So there you go with that. And let's see what else I want to tell you. That's about it. Let's go to Shane Beamer, who was in Houston today. And he's there with a bunch of other coaches who are the finalists for the National Coach of the Year Award, the Bear Bryant Award, which will be announced tonight. And each of the coaches did a segment of a live press conference there and also something that was Zoomed for other media who want to join in. Here is Shane Beamer.
Yeah, humbled and honored to be here in Houston, to be a part of such an amazing event. My dad won this award back after the 1999 season, and to be here as his son and to be a finalist is very humbling, and surrounded by so many amazing coaches for such a great event and great cause.
1999, a little bit kind of I'm sure you've been asked this before, non-traditional. You're the long snapper on that team. Do you have any good Michael Vick stories from back in the day, something that maybe no one's heard?
Oh, man. I don't know if there's anything that no one's not heard, but he was just one of those guys that I don't think anyone, myself included, really realized how good he was until you got into a game. Because in practice, as you know, the quarterbacks are somewhat protected in practice and they're not really getting hit, and it's very sterile, if you will, compared to a real game. And then I'll never forget his first game because he redshirted in 1998. So the first game of the 99 season, just seeing him out there, I think we played James Madison, and it was just like, oh my God. I mean, he's different. So that would be one. And then I was laughing with someone the other day when my dad can tell this story better, but when Mike was coming out of high school, his high school coach was very adamant, as was Mike, that he needed to be redshirted. And in today's time, nobody wants to be redshirted. Now they all want to play as freshmen. So they agreed, okay, we'll take him, but we will redshirt him no matter what happens in the 1998 season. And in 1998, we got down to our third team quarterback. Our starting quarterback missed some games with injuries. Our backup quarterback missed some games with injuries. We went and played Boston College in 1998 on a Thursday night, and we had to move our starting free safety, who had been a high school quarterback, two quarterbacks. Name's Nick Sorensen. He was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers last season. And Nick was our quarterback that night against Boston College. And meanwhile, Mike Vick standing next to me on the sideline carrying a clipboard in that game because we had promised his coach we were going to redshirt him. And we only lost 3 games that season. We were pretty good. But obviously that set up what 1999 became.
But having your dad win this award and just being here nominated for it, what does that mean to you to just kind of be part of that legacy with the Bear Bryant Award?
Yeah, it's can't put into words. I came here when I was his son. I mean, that was after my senior year of college, so I came here with him when he won it after the 1999 season. And I mean, I got into this profession thinking if I could be half the coach, my dad was, it would be a pretty successful career. And to be here in my 4th season as a head coach is extremely humbling and really awesome. And then just the names that are associated with the award, starting with Coach Bryant, but Sylvester Croom, I know, won the Lifetime Achievement Award a few years ago, and he gave me my first full-time job in the SEC and has had as much of an impact on my career and me as a person as anyone other than maybe my dad. So to be just associated with amazing people and coaches like that, it's pretty surreal.
Coach, you've had the opportunity to work under really some of the biggest names in college football history: Fulmer, Croom, your dad, Spurrier. What are some lessons you learned along the way that you've taken with you into this position?
Yeah, great question. I have just the coaches I've been with and the assistant coaches that I've been around. And I was one of those people that always wanted to be a head coach. And I tried to take something from everyone that I was around, but also you got to be your own person and have your own style. But, I go back to when I was at Georgia Tech and worked for George O'Leary and then great assistant coaches that were on that staff. And just that was a great experience for me because I had been around my dad and his program my entire career. So to be exposed to something different was really beneficial as well, being a part of a campus. It's in downtown Atlanta where you recruit nationally, and then going to the University of Tennessee and working for Philip Fulmer, learned about the importance of recruiting and being in a state that at the time didn't have a ton of high school players each and every year. So you had to go all over the country and recruit. And then going to Mississippi State, that was my first full-time job working for Sylvester Croom and taking over a program at the time that was, on probation because of some NCAA issues and having to rebuild it, if you will, and seeing how he did that and always put the players first, every decision that he made. And then Steve Spurrier gave me an opportunity at South Carolina after that. And that was a great experience for me, just being able to see how teams really, truly take on the personality of their coach. And Coach Spurrier, we all know what he's like as a person and as a coach, and the bravado and swag, if you will, that he has. And our players became that and fed off that as well. And then my dad gave me an opportunity at Virginia Tech and getting to work for him. And I'd been his son, am his son. I played for him, but now getting the opportunity to coach for him and see why he was successful. And then Kirby Smart, I was a part of very first staff at Georgia. Seeing him implement his program on day one coming in the door really helped me when I took over the program at South Carolina. And then most recently I was at Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley and just being exposed to his offensive mind and being a part of a program that has such great tradition as Oklahoma really helped me as well.
Coach, I want to go back into the Wayback Machine, and this one is going to go way back. 1989. Your father was 43 years old and he had a corrective heart surgery. Obviously, you were a very young man when this happened, but as you have progressed into your career as a football coach, you've seen the daily grind. You've seen how tough it is to make it through a season healthy. What are some things you were doing, and not just for yourself, but for your staff, to make sure that everybody's taking care of themselves?
Yeah, great question. I can remember that vividly. I remember being on the sidelines with him during a game. We were playing East Carolina, I believe, in 1989, and I remember him calling the team doctor over during the game, and I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I saw him, kind of point to his chest and say something. And then maybe the next morning or the 2 mornings later, I remember waking up and my mom telling me that, Dad's in the hospital and telling me what's going on. And I think I was 12 at the time, that's something you don't like to hear about your dad. And he came out of it and whatnot. So that's a strong memory from my childhood that's helped me now to make sure that I'm taking care of myself physically. And for me, that's, trying to eat right and take care of my body. I exercise every morning. I try and stay active. So every morning throughout the year, I'm in the weight room doing something at 6 a.m., 4 or 5 days a week. And if I'm not in there at 6, I'm doing something active later in the day, without a doubt, running, walking, biking, whatever it may be, just to try and take care of myself, and realizing that the profession that I'm in, it's very stressful. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be at your very best. And then just making sure that myself and our coaches are getting regular checkups. And I learned that from Steve Spurrier when I worked for him at South Carolina. He made his coaches before every season go get a physical and be able to make sure that they're in as good a condition as they can be to start every season, and something that I've tried to continue to do at South Carolina as well.
All right, Shane Beamer out in Houston representing South Carolina. Does a great job in those kind of settings, doesn't he, Chris? I mean, he's a very good talker. He's got plenty of stories to tell. What a recall on his part to be able to go back to 1998, pull up a game and know that it was at Boston College and they were out of quarterbacks, and they bring the safety over. He's now coaching for the 49ers, so they bring him over, have him play quarterback. Michael Vick is standing next to me, blah, 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 blah. That's a heck of a recall.
Well, and that was the most impressive. I had never heard that about Michael Vick, but that was the most amazing part of that story. He actually wanted to redshirt. Could you imagine a player? Let's take Lenore Sellers. I mean, he's probably the closest example we've got to what Michael Vick brought to the table. Could you imagine redshirting Lenore Sellers? I mean, he didn't play a whole lot last year, so I guess in actuality he may have, because he was behind Spencer Rattler. But had Rattler gone down and Jake Bentley, not Bentley.
No.
Myrtle Beach. Help me.
Luke Doty.
Luke Doty, thank you. Yeah, had a brain freeze for a second. Been out in the snow too long.
Yeah.
But had they gone through all their quarterbacks, and you have Lenore Sellers standing there on the sidelines, and you decide, well, we don't want to burn what we told his parents, and I respect the heck out of that and told him too. So we're going to run a safety out there to play quarterback. That's just an amazing story by them, and still only lose 3 games that year. It was remarkable.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see what happens. You asked who you think's going to win. I mean, I think when you consider what they were projected to do this past season and what they ended up doing, he's got to get a lot of credit for that. But Indiana, as you mentioned, great overachievers at Indiana, great overachievers at Army. Sarkisian is one of the other finals, of course. He got his team deep into the playoffs.
So the job Marcus Freeman did at Notre Dame.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, it depends on how the voters looked at and measured what they considered to be Coach of the Year data. Are you Coach of the Year even though you didn't make the playoffs, but your team won 9 games, had a chance to win 10 when you were expected to win, say, 3 or 4 by many? Or is it a automatic thing that if you get your team, if you get your team to the championship, or you get deep into the playoffs, that carries? A lot of it will depend, I guess, on when the voting ended. Were the votes in before the playoffs? I don't know when the voting ended for this particular
that's a good
award.
question.
So what they were using as their
it's always
measurements.
and it's always that battle, even for Conference Coach of the Year, which Beamer won in the SEC, Signetti won in the Big Ten, and Rhett Lashley won in the ACC. Do you do a better job taking a team that not much is expected and turning them into a playoff caliber team, even though Beamer did not get his team into the postseason? Or did you do just as good a job, if not better, if you take a team really, really talented like Ryan Day and you get them all the way through and they win the national championship? Which is the more impressive job? I just don't know the answer to that question.
Yep. I mean, hard not to pick a guy that won the national championship, but he did what he was expected to do.
Exactly.
That's part
and he's not even on the list.
No, I mean, exactly. or a team that gets into the playoffs and makes a deep run. In a lot of cases, these guys were expected to be there. So. Do you have the list in front of you? I was trying to pull up the list of the finalists. Why don't you run through it again?
I do. Of course, it's Shane Beamer at USC and the Kurt Signetti, head coach at Indiana, Spencer Danielson from Boise State, Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State, who won the Big 12 Coach of the Year award, Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, Rent Lashley from from SMU, Jeff Munkin from West Point, and Steve Sarkisian from Texas.
The guy at Arizona State, Dillingham, that's another case of a guy doing a lot more than was expected.
Oh, no question.
Lashley at SMU, that could be another one. I mean, competition's tough, but you expect that when you get to that level. Okay, let's hit the break, and we'll come back and maybe take a couple of phone calls, take a look at our messages coming in on our text message line, which is 803-900-4847. Messages also coming in from Facebook and YouTube. Take a look and see what some of the geniuses have for us tonight on our text message lines. So stay tuned for all of that. We've got Chuck and Ellis coming up, 7:05. Maurice Drayton at 7:35. Be back.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
George Bryant for Tsunami Bar Sports, our inventor, David Abernathy, has always said Tsunami Bar technology allows us to take the training to the grass. Now I know through my sport of golf that natural agility can be converted to athletic ability. And why is this, Tsunami Robbie?
Transferring the training to the grass. This may be the most undervalued characteristic of the Tsunami flexible bar technology. The Tsunami bar action loads and unloads at the concentric and eccentric transition points. This is what we call reversal forces, and the Tsunami bar is the only bar and training device that I know of that can train these reversal forces adequately at speed.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait, order today. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network. Phone number 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number for you. And we go to Sam down in Charleston with us tonight. Sam, welcome in. How you doing? How'd you enjoy the snow down there in Charleston? Y'all get a couple of feet? How deep is it down there in Charleston?
Well, let me look outside real quick. Hang on 1 second.
Okay.
So I was outside today, and I did a snow angel.
Oh, well, you're just an angel yourself, aren't you, Sam? You don't need snow to be an angel.
My parents, I think my mom thinks, both of my parents said, I'm not sure if Sam's an angel. But I have a question for you. We have like a half an inch of snow, so the road is covered with snow right now. So
okay. Be careful out there. Watch your step.
Yeah.
Watch your step.
Hey, what is the poll question you've been talking about?
Well, the poll question. The poll question is the football coach of the year in South Carolina. Who would you peg as the college football coach of the year in South Carolina? Who would be your choice?
Would you give me the names real quick?
Shane Beamer, Dabo Sweeney, Chinnis Berry, and Jericho Cotchery.
So, my number one pick is Shane Beamer to win the whole thing.
Why is that?
And,
why would you pick Shane Beamer?
Well, I was watching the Gamecocks versus Clemson game, and I got to tell you, Shane Beamer's a great coach ever in South Carolina. And I got to tell you, I've never been to a game before, but I like to meet him in person. But
would you take Shane Beamer over Steve Spurrier?
Well, it's very hard to tell against Steve Spurrier. Well, actually, there's a story behind that. When Steve Spurrier, when he was the coach at South Carolina, I think he did great. I mean, he had to give credit to Steve Spurrier, but this guy named Shane Beamer, man, I gotta tell you, great coach, great athletic. I think he's doing great things for South Carolina. I think he should be nominated the Coach of the Year award, and I can see that, Phil, because I really do think Shane Beamer will do great things next year for recruiting class. So here's my question to ask you to think about it, and two things for the college. Do you think if the College of Charleston can renovate the whole arena? That's my number one question, and especially the student section. We got to get everybody fit. I mean, physically fit at the student section. Are they going to renovate the whole thing? Do you know?
They just did that not too long ago,
Don't
didn't
touch
they?
TD Arena.
Yeah,
don't touch that place. It's awesome as it is.
Yeah,
do not touch it.
They just did a little something there not too many years ago, so they're probably set. And I appreciate your phone call. Also wanted to mention from the college today that it's all released that our good friend Everett German, the play-by-play voice of the Cougars, is going to be recognized as getting an award from the school for his his years of service, his lifelong dedication to the Cougars. I think they call it. I got to go back and find the release. Something like, well, I called it Mr. Cougar. Yeah, go ahead.
2025 Cougar Trailblazer.
That's it. I just called it.
That's outstanding.
I called him Mr. Cougar, but that's it. Cougar Trouble. To me, he's Mr. Cougar, and has done a great job in all aspects down there. Okay, we'll be back.
WXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. A school shooting in Nashville, Tennessee claims 2 lives today.
Nashville police spokesperson Don Aaron says the 17-year-old shooter wounded another student at Antioch High School before turning the gun on himself. He says the 2 school resource officers were not in the immediate vicinity of the cafeteria where the shooting took place. And by the time they got down there, the shooting had stopped and the shooter had shot himself. Antioch has endured other prominent shootings in recent years. A 2017 fatal shooting at Burnett Chapel Church of Christ killed 1 woman and wounded 7 people. And in 2018, a shooter killed 4 people at a Waffle House. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Tariffs are coming, says President Trump.
President Trump likes to use the tariffs to pressure other countries into doing what he wants. In the case of Canada and Mexico, it's to crack down on immigrants who are trying to use their territory to cross into the United States illegally. Mainstream economists generally don't like the widespread use of tariffs. They say tariffs push up the cost to consumers and to, say, factories that use imported machinery. Another problem with tariffs is that other countries retaliate. They don't like getting hit with tariffs, so they retaliate against our products.
Correspondent Paul Wiseman reporting. The House has passed a bill to require the detainment of illegal immigrants accused of theft and violent crimes. It marks the first legislation that President Trump can sign as Congress, with some bipartisan support, swiftly moved in line with his plans to crack down on illegal immigration. The bill is called the Laken-Riley Act. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 130 points. The Nasdaq rose 252. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Now, let me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free, too, with their 3-week Quick Start Kit for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF for Relief Factor.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money, but if you can get both, why not? Especially when it comes to healthcare, and that's MediShare. You get both. The typical family saves $500 a month and they love it. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. So yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Call now. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE.
As President Trump returns to the White House, Israel looks to him for leadership. The latest from the Media Line's Felice Friedson.
Just days after returning to the Oval Office, U.S. President Donald Trump is being looked to for leadership, expanding the 2020 Abraham Accords, often referred to as the new again president's crowning first-term foreign policy achievement. A group of prominent Israelis has presented the government with the Abraham Shield plan, providing more than a nod to the accord, but anticipates a strategy to stabilize the region through Saudi-Israel normalization, a phased separation from the Palestinians, and a united regional effort to counter Iran. Timing being everything, the coalition seeks to capitalize on public sentiment, welcoming President Trump's return, Israel's recent military achievements. I'm Felice Friedson, Town Hall News, Jerusalem.
News and analysis at themedialine.org and townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clouds increase. We'll have a cold evening. The low temperature dipping down to 16 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and again, frigid. The high is just 40. A bit warmer for Friday and Saturday. The highs into the mid-40s. While on Sunday, we'll see temperatures cross into the low 50s as a high. We are dry through Monday. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point. The Point. The Point.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
We are back, Sports Talk Media Network on this Wednesday night. Great to have you with us. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen down in Statesboro. And I am here with Josh Cohen at our studios in Columbia. South Carolina out to the early 9-4 lead on Florida. Already, Murray Boyles has got 5 for the Gamecocks and Pringle 4. So two big guys inside getting it done for the Gamecocks with all 9 points. They're shooting 57%. Gators off to a 50% shooting start. Syracuse with the early 8-6 lead on Clemson, shooting 60%. Tigers are shooting 50%. Starling's got 5 to lead the Orange, and 3 Tigers have each scored a bucket to share the scoring lead there. And VMI is leading Furman at the half, 43-36. All right, it is time to put a wrap on the football season in South Carolina with the guys.
Get ready for a deep dive into the X's and O's. This is Chalk Talk with coaches Chuck Reedy and Ellis Johnson on the Sports Talk Media Network.
I already can't wait to play this thing again in August when South Carolina gets ready for Virginia Tech and Clemson gets ready for LSU. But that is then and this is now. And tonight, we put a bow on the season after the national championship game, Ohio State 34, Notre Dame 23. We welcome in coaches Reedy and Johnson. Good evening, gents. Chuck, how are you?
Doing great, Phil. Let's at our age, let's don't jump ahead too fast. Okay?
Are you telling me you're no longer buying green bananas? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I'm not that old, but you know, I mean, I'll be glad when football season gets here. But you know, let's enjoy the time between now and then.
I agree. We all have time, Ellis. We got to have that time to get away to our island mansions to refuel and refresh, huh?
Yeah, Chuck's not worried about the off season. He'll spend half of it down in the Caribbean, but we'll be up here in the snow having to watch a bunch of NBA and other Yellowstone or whatever.
Yellowstone.
You depressed me when you said let's put a wrap on the season. And it's over, man. It is over.
I mean, all we've got left for football, we've just got 2 more games, 2 NFL championship games, and then the Super Bowl, and that'll be 3 more games, 2 more, and then one more, 3 more games. So, all right, Chuck, boy, Ohio State, very impressive. Though Notre Dame had a chance there late, maybe to make it a down to the wire thing. But anyway, what'd you think of the performance offensively of Ohio State? What did they do extremely well in your eyes?
Well, you know, I think all year everybody would agree that Ohio State was the most talented team in the country. Probably the best team money could buy. I mean, they spent the most and they got their money's worth. You know, and I tell you what, the guy that Will Howard. I mean, you got to. I mean, that guy has had a heck of a year. And, you know, came from Kansas State. And, you know, I think not just on the field, but I think, you know, what he provided, you know, in leadership and just the character that he brought, you know, made a heck of a difference for the football team. But obviously, you know, Smith is a great player. Judkins, Henderson, you know, they've got a lot of weapons on offense, and you know, it showed. You know, I would say this, and we didn't talk about this last week, but had Texas not made one of the worst calls I've ever seen in their game, it might have been different. Texas might have had a chance. You know, it could have very easily gone to overtime if Texas, you know, if they don't make a terrible play call on the goal line. But anyway, having said that, congratulations to Ohio State.
Yeah. Ellis, that defensive call where at the very end when they're trying to stop Ohio State, they got them 3rd and long and they need a stop. And, I mean, they played to their or he called it to his character, which is to bring the pressure, and he brought the pressure, and they got burned with the pass to Smith that led to the field goal and sealed the game. What'd you think of that call? Is that something that you do in a similar situation?
Well, I think they were in a situation where they had to deny that first down, or Ohio State may just kill the clock. And whether they threw the 50-yard pass to kick the field goal or whether they got the first down, it was a really, really tough decision. So I don't think anything wrong with the call. I would say if I'd studied him, maybe I'd done something different. I don't know. But I thought, Ohio State, using that talent that Chuck was just talking about, I didn't think that Notre Dame brought pressure as much as they loaded the box. I mean, Judkins is sitting down, hell, he's rushing for I don't know how many yards. He got 100 in a game, but, you got to stop something there, and you can't take it all away. So you got people in the box. You don't have anybody to go help double that guy.
And he burned him, and that proved to be what did you think of the call offensively there, Chuck? I mean, are you 3rd and 11? You're trying to run the clock. You could have run more of an intermediate pattern, but they found the one-on-one situation. They got the ball to their best receiver.
Oh, I'm sure the play call wasn't to throw the ball 50 yards down the field, but when they come to the line and you could see Will Howard. I mean, as soon as the ball was snapped, I mean, he saw that there was single coverage on Smith. I mean, and he didn't do anything but go straight to it. I mean, that's a mismatch. I mean, I don't think there's any question that guy's the best receiver in the country. Ellis knows a lot better than me, but I think I'd have played coverage and try to keep everything in front of me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, Ellis, your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, it's a different situation in the game, but bottom line, if they get a first down right there, no matter whether it was a 50-yard play or a 6-yard play, you're in trouble. So you can second guess it. I don't think it was a terrible call. I think maybe you do look out there and say, hey man, we got this guy, he can't cover him one-on-one. Just back off and give him a hitch and play first down again. But guys, you give another 4 downs, I mean, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So they were in trouble either way.
Yeah.
This thing was way before that play. Everybody wants to make that kid out to be the Heisman Trophy now. You go back and look at the season, he's a talented kid, but he wasn't that productive. I just don't throw the coordinator the call on that play. Give 100 people that situation, you get 100 different calls. I mean, there is no good call in the plan for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chuck, what did you think of the Greathouse kid for Notre Dame, the kind of game he had with 6 catches, 128 yards coming off the big plays he had in the semifinals? Kid out of Texas, and I mean, he's got greatness written all over him.
Well, he really does. I mean, he just came out of nowhere. I don't know what all he had done during the season. I think he'd had a good year, but he certainly came to the front in the playoffs, and I think he is the guy that's the All-American. Is it lacrosse?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so he's guy's obviously a heck of an athlete, and certainly showed up.
Ellis, defensively, Notre Dame gave up 445 yards. Ohio State averaged over 7 yards per play. I mean, come on, as a defensive coordinator, what do you do in that situation where their offense is just so good, and you're a talented defense, but you can't keep up.
Yeah, and I know this always sounds like I flipped the script, but Notre Dame's offense could not stay on the field. So you put any defense out there against Ohio State without any, ball control and change of field position. I saw it was a stat that I think the first 6 or 5 possessions of Ohio State, like 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6 of the first possessions started inside the 50-yard line. So, yeah, they were good defense, really good defense. I think Al does a great job, but they couldn't hold up on that. And Ohio State's a very balanced team. They ran the football, for over 200 yards. And so, I think Howard was a great player. I didn't take anything from him.
Yeah.
But what the Leonard kid, who I've criticized for 3 weeks, what Riley Leonard did against Ohio State, without a running game to help him, I thought was phenomenal. And neither one of those kids threw a pick. And it was just constant pressure on him. The story of the whole game was Ohio State's defensive line.
They were, you think, too physical for Notre Dame's offensive front? Too big?
There was no running game that ever showed up, and they kept constant pressure on Riley Leonard. I'd hate to say this. I got to the house, and it was already 7-7. And I'd love to go back and watch it. Whatever drive it was some kind of like 10-play drive for 70 yards. Maybe Ohio State was just feeling them out or something. But other than that drive, I mean, I don't know how they did that on them early in the game. But the whole thing I watched during the course of the game, Notre Dame could not get a running game. Riley Leonard was under constant pressure when he tried to throw. And so therefore, they couldn't stay on the field until the third quarter, late in the third quarter. And I just think anybody try to hold up against Ohio State with that possession time and all the field position, I mean, it's almost impossible.
As 18-play opening drive, 18 plays, 75 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, Notre Dame came out and hit him in the mouth. Yeah, and said, okay.
I mean, it took up 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, and they did run the ball effectively, and, of course, Leonard had some good throws in there as well. But, no, they had that first drive was very, very impressive. Now, it went downhill from there, but it was very impressive.
Well, because, I mean, what happened was Ohio State came right back with 11 plays, 75 yards in 6 minutes, and then they ran off, they built their lead. They scored 31 straight points, I think, something like that, to build a cozy lead. All right, so the season's over. The first expanded playoff is over. This process now, its initial run is over, Chuck. What do you think the committees, the people in charge will do this offseason, the fine-tuning, the tweaking to the process? What do you think they'll do? What do you think they'll focus on?
I suspect that they won't make any changes until 26. Now, I think eventually, whether it be this year or the next year, they're going to do away with the seeding the way it was done. They're not going to give those conferences the buys. Then the other thing that I think was very what really was good was playing at the college sites instead of at the bowl sites. And so I suspect that what changes they make, they will probably go 2 rounds playing at the home field of because those were much more exciting. You had better, you had better turnout. You had better crowds, whatever. It's difficult. You're playing at the Rose Bowl, and I don't know who, but let's say you got Georgia and Notre Dame playing. I mean, it's awfully hard for those fans to get all the way out there. So I think those are 2 things that are going to change. I think they ought to go to 16 and do away with the buys altogether. I don't know that the buys. Matter of fact, the buys were not beneficial to the teams that had them. So I would, ultimately, I think they'll go to 16 and just play it out from there.
Well,
anyway,
that's a good point. Now, keep in mind that the buys went to weaker teams. So if they redo the seeding and put the strongest teams get the top seeds and the buys, if they don't do away with the buys, you're probably going to have a different scenario there.
Well, that's true, but I mean, Oregon and Georgia were 1 and 2, and they were both they were champions of the Big Ten and the SEC.
True,
both of them beat.
That's true. You're exactly right. Ellis, so we ended up with Notre Dame and Ohio State, 2 of the greatest programs of all time, playing for the championship. And I mean, do you think are we always going to have this thing boiled down to 2 teams like that? The beautiful thing about the NCAA basketball tournament is on occasion, and maybe more often than not now, you get a true unknown rising up and having a chance to win the whole thing and maybe even winning the whole thing. But football, I mean, the rich are still going to spend the most money to go after the best players and acquire those players. Are we always going to see the same 2 or 3 or 4 teams getting to the championship game, despite them having to run through this playoff system?
I'm not going to say just 2 or 3 or 4, but yes, that's where it's headed. And it's going to look like it did when you guys, Chuck knows, when in the late 60s, early 70s, you didn't see anybody else on TV or anything else other than these same 15, 20 teams. I mean, hell, Chuck probably had Clemson. Clemson played South Carolina on TV for the first time in, 79 or something? Now, there wasn't a lot of streaming and cable and all that back then, but there is now. And that's what gave some parity on this thing, because conferences could get money from TV and they could spread it around. Now it's gone back to buying players. And the schools that used to run NCAA football back in those days were the Big Ten, the Pac, more so the Big Ten, and they had the Rose Bowl. And believe it or not, guys, the Rose Parade was one of the biggest monetary things on TV back then. And money back then is different than money now, but it's still money. And it's becoming who's got the most money. And I hate it. I agree with about 90% of what Chuck said. I didn't like the home sites. I thought it gave a tremendous advantage to the other teams. And then even watching some of these NFL games in the snow this past weekend, football has changed so much in the last 30 or 40 years, and it's a spread out skill game now. And I think when you get bad weather, especially for 19, 20-year-olds, you affect the game too much. So I like the neutral sites with decent weather. And, I don't care how many people are in the stands. They're going to cut it on TV if it's a good game. But I sound like an old frustrated Southern boy, and I am. I mean, listen, guys. Phil, you wasn't even born, but Chuck and I watched it.
You're right.
We grew up when
I was.
No, there wasn't anybody in.
I wasn't.
I mean, it really is ridiculous.
I wasn't born until color TV was here, so I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Going back to that era.
But on the seeding now, the number 7 and 8 seed ended up making it to the final game. That is one thing I think they can take into committee meetings and say, something's not right here, guys. But at the same time, I don't think they can change anything this year either. I think Chuck's exactly right. The other conference commissioners get a vote on this, and I don't think they're going to allow them to change it next year. So while everything's dynamically changing every 10 months in this damn college scene, I do not think that they're going to be able to make any changes before next year. Even seeding, I think they're going to probably get in a showdown or a standoff, if you will. As far as fans traveling, I know from personal experience, if you're in the playoffs, a family got $4,000 per player, anybody that traveled. So they're taking care of some of that. I think the fan bases are going to get weary of it. They're going to get tired of it, tired of traveling, and tired of watching the same old 12, 15 teams play. And it ain't going to be some of our favorite teams, boys.
Chalk Talk tonight here on Sports Talk. Chuck and Ellis with us one final time of the football season. And, Coach, dovetailing off your comments about sort of football fatigue, the Notre Dame-Ohio State, at least from a TV viewership, actually was 3 million fewer viewers that watched Monday, that watched the Michigan-Washington championship game last season. Ellis, to your point, do you think people are just tired of seeing the same teams, or is the season too long? I mean, we're talking about the 16, 17 games that these guys are playing now. What should be a highly viewed game turned out to be less than Michigan and Washington. Are folks just tired of college football on January 20th?
We have to understand this, and I don't think I've been on a bunch of these little podcasts and radio shows. College fans are not NFL fans. NFL fans will follow their team somewhere else, and then there's people in other areas. It's just different. And they don't get that many people in the stands, but people will cut the TV on and watch the greatest players. I do think people are getting tired of it. And I can't believe that. I'm surprised you told me that stat, and I'm glad you did, because it'll verify some things I've been claiming. But if these two teams didn't have the highest rated TV sets on, I mean, we obviously got a problem, guys. And I think they're going to wake up too late and realize this thing's not as marketable as sports is in the pros. And people are kind of weary of it. I mean, people don't watch. Listen, if you think Alabama fans or Arizona State fans or Clemson fans or Carolina fans, or you think they ran home to cut this game on? No. But pro football fans, they're going to watch no matter who plays.
That's been proven.
True.
All right, just
Absolutely.
A few more minutes to
College
go.
football was built on alumni, rivals games, conferences. et cetera. It's just they're losing the whole thing, guys.
Well, they're about to kill all that because, I mean, I saw one proposal from somebody who suggested that the Army-Navy game be played the first week of the season. And also talking about, I saw where the commissioner of the SEC, who every time he makes a suggestion, it just makes me believe even more the guy knows nothing about sports or about the ACC or anything. I mean, I'm sure he's a very bright guy in some fashion. He's got doctor by his name. I don't have doctor by my name. Chuck, do you have doctor by your name? No.
No.
So
I don't think that makes you smart.
He's obviously, got more letters than we do. But anyway, he's suggesting that the ACC championship game be played between the second and third place teams, and that the regular season champion just sit it out so they're already into the playoffs, or we'll get the at-large bid, and the champion of the game, the winner of that game, will be the second or third place team, then would get the automatic bid. That's his view. Or no, he had another suggestion. Have a playoff of the top 4 teams on the last weekend of the regular season, which would, of course, affect all rivalry games in that situation. And then those 2 winners play for the championship game the next week. So anyway, go ahead, Chuck.
Phil, did you say ACC or SEC commissioner?
That was ACC.
ACC,
well,
yeah.
Let me tell you something. That's how they got in the situation they're in. They hire people from basketball places or something. The North Carolina guy signed this damn TV thing that's got them in a bind and got about 4 of their colleges playing handicap. I mean, good Lord. And on the SEC, Sankey ain't no SEC guy. He's just a bureaucrat. And check where he's from and his background. He's a very talented, smart dude. I mean, I give you that.
Yeah.
But the SEC has not grown and gone and gotten better in national competition under Sankey.
Chuck?
Don't even get me started on the ACC.
Go ahead, Chuck.
No, I mean, Ellis was on it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the ACC. I saw the same thing you saw. I mean, that was so ridiculous that you like you said, you got to wonder about that guy. No, I don't know, Phil. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, college football's in a mess. But I think if you're just looking back at the playoff, it was a success. And, I think you have to look at it and say, hey, it was good. I mean, it wasn't great, but I mean, certainly it was better than what we had in the past.
Guys, we salute you. You're 2 of the best. We love you here on Sports Talk. South Carolina loves you. Citadel loves you, Ellis. Clemson loves you, Chuck. And even though you're an Appalachian State guy, we can't wait to have you back. We may call you up sometime during the spring to talk more football because we can always talk football. But for now, we say sayonara.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
That is so motivating. And, oh, man, that just makes my day.
Ella, sayonara means bye-bye, by the way, in case you didn't know.
I know, and that's what's so bad. I'm trying to give you a compliment. I'm going to miss this.
Well, we'll call you again. I mean, we know you get a little lonely up there in Pickens County. We'll call you again.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you so much. Gamecocks 23, Florida 20, Clemson 36, Syracuse 23. Be right back. Maurice Drayton is coming up.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clouds increase. We'll have a cold evening. The low temperature dipping down to 16 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and again, frigid. The high is just 40. A bit warmer for Friday and Saturday, the highs into the mid-40s. While on Sunday, we'll see temperatures cross into the low 50s as a high. We are dry through Monday. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting police say a female student was killed and another student was wounded in a shooting in a Nashville high school cafeteria. Metro Nashville Police spokesperson Don Aaron said during a news conference that the 17-year-old gunman later shot and killed himself with a handgun. Aaron says the shooting happened Wednesday morning at Antioch High School, where the gunman and his victims were students. The House has passed a bill to require the detainment of unauthorized migrants accused of theft and violent crimes. The Laken Riley Act is named after a Georgia nursing student who was murdered last year by a Venezuelan man in the country illegally. Its passage shows just how sharply the political debate over immigration has shifted. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 130 points. More details at srnnews.com.
People hear me talking about Broker Solar and how much I like Ken and his team. They ask, hey, can I really trust this guy, Kev? Let me tell you two things. Number one, Ken and Broker Solar are legit. I've known Ken's family for 20 plus years. Seriously, these are local, ethical people. They're not going anywhere, and they do things the right way. Number two, Broker Solar is so different than these stereotypes we've heard about in the solar industry. There's no signs on the yard making stupid promises they can't keep. There's no door knockers trying to pressure you at your own door. Ken and Broker Solar will tell you the truth, what it'll cost, and how your solar power investment will pay off. See, we can't pick our power companies. Broker Solar gives you a chance to take some control over your power bill, and I like that, and so should you. Online, it's brokersolar.com, and seriously, reach out to Ken and these folks. It could really make a difference in your quality of life. Brokersolar.com, empowering you so you're not powerless.
At Palmetto State Armory, we offer the largest selection of guns and ammunition at unbeatable prices. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff are here to provide personalized assistance, ensuring you find exactly what you need. If you enjoy outdoor activities like hunting, camping, or hiking, our clothing and outdoor gear collection has got you covered. We also feature an exceptional indoor range facility where you can experience the thrill of shooting in a safe and controlled environment. Visit us today at PalmettoStateArmory.com or your local retail store. Palmetto State Armory, American made for life.
Do you crave growth for your business? That's where The Point comes in. Fran Halloran here. Kevin Cohen and the other local hosts like me have worked to create a space where listeners transform into family. Are you a local business aiming for the stars? You need to get with Kevin and let him help create an individualized blueprint for your growth using the influential stage of The Point Radio. Reach out directly at 563-8558. Teaming with The Point, make this year extraordinary.
I was thinking about the things that matter to me when it comes to calling the plumber. First, most of us call the plumber out of a need, often a crisis. So you want reliability. Then, we're in a vulnerable place already, so you want someone you can trust, someone who will be fair in their pricing and handle things professionally. These are some of the reasons I feel comfortable recommending Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, they've been out to my home. They've been out to my brother's home, too. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning did such a great job. And you know, maybe this might not matter as much to some people, but they're locally owned. A lot of these plumbing companies you've heard of used to be local, and now they're owned by big national or even international conglomerates. Working with a locally owned company matters. It keeps your pricing down, and the money stays local here in the community. Josh and his team at Franklin makes customer service their top priority. I trust them. You can too, especially during these vulnerable times. Online, it's franklinplumbing.sc.com or call them 799-2222. That's 799-2222.
All right, over at the CLA, a 9-0 run for the Gamecocks. They're up 32-22 on Florida. Josh, what do you What are you doing the Florida, the chomp for? You're getting beat by 10, man. You're down 10 to a team that hasn't won an SEC game. You're going to lose. You're going down tonight. Gators going down. You're down 32.
I will tell you this,
22.
Phil, and I mentioned this during the break. If you look at the rebounding stats of the game thus far, Carolina is doing exactly what they've got to do. This is a Florida team that I think is a plus 11 this season in rebounding. USC's out-rebounding them right now. They keep that up, they may win this game. They'll certainly have a chance late to win the game.
Well, Murray Boyles is having one of his games that leads you to believe he's an NBA player. 5 of 5 from the floor, got a three-pointer. He's got 11 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists. So they've got 10 assists on their 13 baskets. I mean, that's what you got to do. That's how you got to play. And so right now they're up 32-22. Meantime, Clemson's just shooting the lights out, 65%. They're up on Syracuse, 42-29. Chase Hunter, 5 of 6, 2 for 2. He's got 12 points and 1 board. Zachary's got 9 points for the Tigers, so they're just lighting it up against Syracuse thus far. And update that Furman game. Furman and VMI playing up in Lexington, Virginia. Bet you they got some snow up there. And Vimy is up on Furman 40. Make that 46-37. 46-37. VMI on top of Furman at this point in time. Okay, we got recruiting coming up in a couple of minutes. Let's continue some football talk tonight. We travel around the state here in the offseason, catching up with as many coaches as we can. Welcome in the head coach of the Citadel Bulldogs. Year number 2 is in the books. Man, it goes by fast. Coach Maurice Drayton joining us here on Sports Talk. Good evening, Coach. How you doing?
Hey, guys. How's everybody doing tonight?
We're doing great. We're doing great. Hope you are well. We just finished up a segment that included Ellis Johnson. You know Coach Johnson, don't you?
Oh, yeah. That's my mentor.
Okay. Well, you know he's all lonely up in the upstate doing nothing. And I'm just suggesting that you hire him to maybe be assistant head coach in charge of, I don't know, uniforms or something. Give him a job.
Well,
he needs a job.
I can tell you I've offered him every year. I've been in this position, and I told him he can do anything that he wants to do. If he wants to just show up on game days, he could do that too. Whatever it is he wants, he's welcome to it.
It's a great defensive mind being wasted up there is my feel.
Oh, yeah. He needs to be working, I tell you.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you with us. I know we talked to you going into that Clemson game when you guys wrapped it up, but besides that, what did you think about your season? And by the way, that Clemson game, I mean, you guys really stung them on the ground, I'll tell you that. But what kind of view did you take of this season now that you've had a chance to look back at it a little bit?
Well, it was better, but we left a lot of meat on the bone. I try not to be a pessimist, but I'm always hungry, and I'm always trying to get it perfect. Now, we know perfection does not exist, but that's our goal. So the things that are sticking out to us is the meat we left on the bone. You got a Furman game that you let get away from you that you should have had, a South Carolina State game that got away from you. That's if you can turn those games there, you're 6 points from having 7 wins at the Citadel, and that's huge. And now that's about right. In my preseason prediction that I gave myself.
So you were right about there. But, I mean, you also have to look at it, too, the big step that you took from year one. Let's face it, that was a very tough year for you where you were trying to be competitive was tough for you. In year 2, you took a big step to where you not only were competitive, but like you mentioned, you were on the brink of a 6 or 7 win season. I mean, that's a huge step to take from year 1 to year 2.
Absolutely. It is a huge step, and we don't want to negate that, and we are proud of that. But, I don't want too many of those attaboys for our young men because we have so much more work to do. And we're going to achieve it, and we can achieve it. We're trying to build this program from the ground up and just do that, build a program not a season. I will say this: the portal is crushing a lot of people at my level, the FCS level. But for us right now, the portal has allowed me to go out and recruit high school talent that we wouldn't normally get. So now for our coaches, our watchword is retention and development. That's retention and development. If we do that, we'll be just fine.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great attitude to have. How does your roster look coming off the season from that standpoint? How well are you doing retaining guys who are eligible to come back? How many major holes do you have to fill?
So we're able to retain everybody that is needed and necessary. So that part is good. We feel good about the retention piece. We are adding pieces to the puzzle. Obviously, signing date hasn't hit yet for us, so I'm not allowed to name individuals. But the state of South Carolina for high school talent right now is to me at a high for our level. So I feel really good about some of this in-state talent that we're getting, and we've been able to address some needs out of state as well. And then we will fill any gaps or any holes we have with a graduate transfer.
Maurice Drayton, head football coach at the Citadel, joining us tonight here on Sports Talk. Looking forward to a spring practice, and as always, the regular season not that far away. Coach, I found your comments interesting about how difficult recruiting is right now at the FCS level, and you mentioned the word retention. Coastal Carolina on the men's basketball side of the coin, the way they recruit, they've got 3 R's in their recruiting philosophy. It's relationship, role, and then rate, which we all know is the NIL money. How important do you believe, though, that first one is for you guys, developing that relationship to allow your players who may get better offers in terms of money somewhere else, but they want to stay because you have developed a relationship with them?
Absolutely. Relationships is everything. That's where it starts. We have to know these young men inside and out, and I feel like we do a good job at that. Our punter, we have a punter that's really good. He had the opportunity to go to ACC school that offered him, what's a large amount of money for him, and he elected to stay. And he's going to be with us in his final season. So I would imagine as we get better, as this team gets better, we'll have more of that. And based upon our relationships with these young men, I'm betting that we'll have more to stay than leave.
Yeah, that punter you mentioned, in fact, I was at one of your games, and he's a guy – you're talking about, make sure I get the right way. Is it James Platt? Yeah, James Platt.
Yes.
And
yes.
he averaged like 47 plus per punt. I mean, and I watched him at your game that you guys played. I think it was Chattanooga. You won that game, and he was. He's got an NFL leg, right? Could you see him going to the next? And you were a special teams coach in the NFL, so you'd be an expert in this category. Does he have what it takes to be the next level?
Absolutely. He has what it takes to be go to the next level. The one thing that we shared with him, and he knows, there's only 6 to 7 coaches in all of NCAA football who have experienced coaching specialists at the NFL level. And it just so happens myself and Tony Coxum are on the same roster. So that definitely helps when it comes to specialists. Our long snappers, the last 2 seasons we've been there, have been All-American. So the fact that we're kind of turning into STU, Special Teams U, definitely helps us.
Hey, you got to be strong at something. That's a good place to start. You win a lot of games with special teams. What are you going to do about your quarterback situation? Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe Jonathan Bennett moves on, doesn't he? I think he's finished.
Yes, he does move on, and you wouldn't believe the amount of quarterbacks and people who want to come to Charleston and possibly want to play for the Citadel. But we've elected to go with what we have on our roster and add to it through the high school ranks. The quarterbacks on roster, Dustin Fletcher, he will get the first nod, and then we have a redshirt freshman and a true freshman on campus as we speak. Between the two of them, we'll see who can get this second position and possibly even knock Dustin off. But we feel really good about what we have on campus in the room. And we have a commitment from a high school quarterback that is lights out. I mean, he's fast as lightning. You can turn off the light and he gets under the sheets before it gets dark. Really like that guy. And we're looking to add one more that we feel really good about.
So, I mean, this offseason, how is it different for you coming off the kind of year you had compared to year one in terms of walking into a high school and finding players who are now noticing what you're doing and are like, you know, very interested in hearing what you have to say? Maybe they weren't so interested at the start of your term there, but now all of a sudden you got a lot of people interested in wanting to come down and follow through in exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I tell you, wearing the logo on the shirt going into a school now is much better than after year one. I can tell you that. Our coaches have done a great job of identifying players and staying in touch with them through all these platforms that we're allowed to be in contact with these young men now. It's unbelievable the amount of young men that they're touching, at our junior days, our game day invites, and the amount of people that we're bringing on campus has been tremendous for our brand. Our recruiting coordinator, Coach Everett Sands, does a fabulous job in that market as well.
Have you been able to hold your staff together? Any changes there since the end of the season?
Yes. So after year one, and this is what we pride ourselves on too, as far as attracting coaches. After year one, and I know my coaches why, and I know their wants. We had two coaches to move on to professional ranks. Our special teams coordinator in year one was with the Las Vegas Raiders this past season. Our DB coach, our secondary coach, went on to coach in that United Football League. We lost two more coaches this year. Our offensive line coach, Patrick Covington, he's going to make that jump over to ETSU in Johnson City, where he has family. It's a good family decision for him. And then our secondary coach that coached our safeties in Nichols, Blaze Barista, he's going to Central Arkansas. So losing those guys, while we're happy for them, it always gives you the opportunity to go out and get better. We have no shortage of people who want these jobs because they understand that we don't hold our coaches back. We propel them and help them to get their why.
And my why to you is, why do you want to play North Dakota State to open the season? That's my why
well,
to
I tell
you.
you what, when I first signed the contract to be the head coach at the Citadel, and as we're placing games, I was asked, do we want to play North Dakota State? And I said, absolutely. I'm a big Ric Flair guy, in case you don't know. And Rick says all the time, in order to be the man, you have to beat the man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're excited about this opportunity. We're going to play them August 30th at high noon. And they keep telling me, don't give a game time. Well, it's been high noon in my mind since we signed that contract. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun day in Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, that should be awesome. We congratulate you on the season. I know you still want to take that thing up higher and higher, and you're moving in that direction. So thank you, as always, for being with us. Look forward to talking to you come the fall and then following you guys next season.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Coach.
much. All right, Coach Maurice Drayton. Love what he's doing down at the Citadel.
I do too.
And they're going to be hosting the Bison, right?
Yes, correct.
How big is that going to
Season
be?
opener. That's why he's talking about the high noon game.
Yeah.
Wants to get those guys from North Dakota out in South Carolina heat.
Yeah, smart move. 36-29 at the half. South Carolina over Florida, 48-29. Clemson over Syracuse at the half. Recruiting coming up. We're with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer, it's hunting season in South Carolina this fall, and folks need to be prepared from a legal standpoint.
That's right, Phil. Everyone always needs to buy their hunting license or fishing license. Everyone always worries about losing their license. Well, now that's not a problem anymore because you can keep your license on your phone. That's right, Go Outdoors SC. It's an app. Look for it on your Apple or Android devices. You can buy your license, you can renew your boat registration, and it's all right there on your phone. Remember, Go Outdoors SC in your app store.
Happy New Year. 2025 is here, and that means it's time to get your finances on track. With Founders Federal Credit Union, you can manage debt like a pro this year. Simplify and possibly reduce your payments by consolidating your high-interest debt with a personal loan from Founders. With flexible payment terms and loan amounts, we have a personal loan to fit your needs. Stop by one of our locations or visit foundersfcu.com. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
One lottery ticket makes a big difference for our state students. And when I say big, I mean bigger than jackpot big. Since 2002, South Carolina students have benefited from more than $6 billion in lottery-funded scholarships and grants, including the Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow Scholarships. With every lottery play, you're supporting our students, and that adds up in a big way. That's why education is our middle name. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hi, Phil Kornblut here with our good friend George Bryan III, heard every Friday night on Birdies, Bogeys, and Biceps right here on Sports Talk. George, the Tsunami Bar, a very valuable tool for golfers. Why is that?
Well, the first thing that I say is the tempo. It's the only tool out there that allows the study of tension right from the first grab to be expressed, and rhythm and tempo is what makes the bar work, and it gives you something awfully special to keep those hands soft and get that rhythm going.
Learn more about Tsunami Bar technology by clicking on the digital ad on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and save 5% by purchasing online using the promo code BBB5.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
All right, time for the recruiting report tonight, brought to you by Seawells. Get out to Seawells tomorrow and Friday. Boy, Friday, capping the week with a great menu for the daily luncheon buffet. But what do we have tomorrow leading up to it? What's the build-up to the big Friday?
Well, I didn't know this. They closed today.
Well, the snow.
Yeah, it's not that bad outside.
That means they'll be well-rested and ready to cook.
Well-rested. Tomorrow, if they are open, which I assume they are, Southern fried chicken, sliced beef brisket, fried fish nuggets, and barbecue chicken. That's just tomorrow.
Well,
here Friday?
If you're not working tomorrow, I'm firing you. I mean, there's no excuse for not working. I mean, today was like there's more traffic on Christmas than there is on a snow day around here. And the roads were perfectly clear. There's some icy spots. I get that. You have to be careful. I'm not saying drive like a fool. Roads were absolutely fine where I was today. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I digress.
It should be good enough.
Friday.
The one plow truck.
Just give the one thing.
The plow truck. The one plow truck.
The one South Carolina truck.
You can call them up, and they'll pave the way just for you to go to Seawells. For tomorrow, or from Friday, Southern fried chicken, carved roasted sirloin of beef. That's another term for roast beef. Baked flounder fillets and honey barbecue and hot chicken wings.
You know, how dare you denigrate our state, Josh? We have 2 snowplows, I'll have you know.
You know, I actually saw 5 of them, so we must have a couple.
You know, up in Chicago, I'm told that where the mafia lives, a couple of railroad stops down from the main part of the city, like during the heavy snow, and you always knew where the mafia lived because their streets were the first one cleaned. And their driveways were always clean, and their streets were you knew exactly where the mafia workers, they lived the first train stop down, and then the mafia hierarchy lived the next train stop down. This is what I'm told by people who live in Chicago. So, but you always knew where they lived because their streets were always the first ones cleaned. And if you had something to say about it, you'd look outside your your window one day and there'd be a woodchucker. What's that thing called? A wood grinder? A wood
chipper?
Yeah. You'd have one of those things parked in front of your yard, and you knew what that was about.
It's your one warning.
You knew what was coming next. All right. Anything else? Oh, as far as the very best in catering, make sure you call Seawells at 803-771-7385 or online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. So last night, South Carolina actually cut a commitment. 2026 linebacker Rodney Colton, 6'2", 220 of Noonan, Georgia, cut him from their 2026 commitment list. Hal McGranahan, the Big Spur, reported the Gamecock staff decided Colton wasn't serious about following through with his commitment. In an interview with Jordan Kay of the State last night, Colton disputed that notion, pointing out that he had been committed since the 10th grade, April 24, 2024, and had received about 20 offers since then while sticking with his commitment. However, Colton said linebackers coach Clayton White called him last night and expressed the opinion that he was not acting like a commitment, but more like a free agent. Colton has continued to visit other programs since his commitment and plans a return visit to Tennessee this weekend, according to Sam Spiegelman of Rivals. Colton also landed an offer from Missouri last night. He also met with Ole Miss defensive coordinator Pete Golding on Monday and with Mississippi State linebackers coach Coleman Huntsler, former Gamecock coach, on Tuesday. Colton's subtraction from the class leaves the Gamecocks with 5 commitments. Offensive tackle Maxwell Riley of Avon Lake, Ohio, announced Tuesday he's down to a final 2 of Clemson and Ohio State. Clemson coach Dabo Swinney and receivers coach Tyler Grisham visited wide receiver Gordon Sellers in Charlotte Tuesday. Swinney and offensive line coach Matt Luke also Tuesday visited offensive tackle Zion Giles of Carvers Bay. Shane Beamer and assistants visited with safety Kentavion Anderson of Dorman and offensive lineman Trey Aiken of Clennon on Tuesday. Several staff members joined Beamer in Clennon, including offensive line coach Lonnie Teasley, tight ends coach Sean Elliott, and offensive coordinator Mike Schuler. Aiken said it was great to have them all there. They talked about things this past weekend when he played in the high school Blitz junior game, and they also talked about how they liked him for their offensive line, which they like him as an interior guy, and he says he can snap, and that's fine with him. He also had another visitor Tuesday. It was Appalachian State head coach Dowell Loggins, the former Gamecock OC. Also, coaches from Virginia Tech and Florida have been in, and he's expecting Florida State make that NC State. He was expecting NC State today if they could get in through the weather. Now, the coaches need to see him this month because he has no plans for any junior days this month or next. He wants to spend time filling in his family and then release a short list of his offers in February or March, a short list from those offers. USC, East Carolina, Georgia Tech, West Virginia, NC State, Florida, Kentucky, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Duke, South Florida, Liberty, Coastal, and Appalachian are those offers. He's not been offered by Clemson, but he's having contact from offensive line coach Matt Luke, but they've not been in to see him. He plans to make his decision prior to his senior season. He does not have a favorite at this stage of his recruitment. That'll do it. Recruiting on Sports Talk. Check it out on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, on our Facebook page, Sports Talk Media Network. All right, 48-29 Clemson and South Carolina up 36-29. Do they both hold on and win, Chris?
Clemson definitely does. And the Gamecocks, if they can duplicate the second half from the first half, yeah, I think they will. Especially because, as I mentioned, battle of the backboards, they're in it and they're not turning the ball over. I mean, that's a perfect first half for them.
Only 3 turnovers. See if they can keep that up. Thank you, sir. You have a great call tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.